Everything Architecture by Office Kristen Gales David Van Severen.
Office Kristen Gales David Van Severen was founded in 2002 by Kristen Gales and David Van Severen. Office is renowned for its idiosyncratic architecture, in which realizations and theoretical projects stand side by side. The projects are direct, spatial, and firmly rooted in architectural theory. The firm reduces architecture to its very essence and most original form. A limited set of basic geometric rules is used to create a framework within which life unfolded out in all its complexity.
Since its establishment in Brussels, Office Kristen Gales David Van Severen has earned a reputation as one of Belgium's most successful and renowned practices. Office engages in all architectural and urbanist design, creating projects of all scales ranging from furniture to master planning in Belgium as well as internationally. This practice is combined with academic research and teaching. These two aspects of Office's work are explicitly each other's mirror, creating unexpected parallels between academic and practical work.
The firm's new exhibition, entitled Everything Architecture, is situated within the antechamber at Beaux-Arts. The Brussels Center for Fine Art has a suitably ambitious goal: to shake up the existing stereotype and format of what an architecture exhibition should be. Gills and Van Severen have curated their retrospective to convey their firm's central ideology and all of their studio's output. Models, sketches, and technical drawings can exist as standalone projects in their own right.
The show is built mostly around a series of models, but also drawings and paintings. It aims to distill the practice's architecture down to its very essence and original form by bringing architectural theory back to the basics and focusing on essential values. This approach is accompanied by a visually powerful and pragmatic analysis of the geometric processes that lead to the creation of a three-dimensional volume.
Engaging with the world is what architecture should do. It should carry the flag of culture in defiance. For more than a decade, that office has been making architecture, always with awareness precise. It was and is convinced of its goal. Though it is simultaneously unable to define them, this is the core of their cultural production. Models, drawings, and perspective created by the architects are displayed, together with the work of art that are related to the spirit and the language of this firm of architects. These works of art are more than sources of inspiration. They dive deeper into the ambiguity of representation and abstraction. Crucially important is the way in which the works are seen to interrelate, both spatially and in terms of content.
The objects and sculptures find the place in between the models and tables. They negotiate the datum of the show and question issues of size, scale, and originality. The paintings and photographs challenge the ambiguity of architectural presentation. The perspectives and photographs show how selection of viewpoint or a frame, etc., drives the intentions of the project, and for it is the core of its constructed ambiguity.
Everything we consider architecture today, so to speak, up to the current point, almost all models are final. Despite their uneven materiality, they all serve in the moment of presentation. The models provide a perfect antidote to other material that is included in the show. Perspectives, photographs, paintings, objects, and sculptures, often not by the office, but part of its universe. What is architecture other than a device to define spaces, a tool to make hierarchies, a machine for illusions, an element for reference? Architecture is limited but all-inclusive. It is performing in relative autonomy. It engages in what is contains without ever being infected, without being involved in the process.
Yes, for more than a decade, their office has been making architecture, always with awareness and obsessively precise. They was and were conceived of its goals, convinced of its goals, although it was simultaneously unable to define them. This is the core of their cultural production.
An architecture made as a sequence of spaces is one that concentrates on the threshold, both internally and between the inside and outside. It is an architecture that is increasingly disconnected from its real content and concentrates on the perimeter. We should say it is an architecture without content, provocatively perhaps, but with the aim of emphasizing that its primary function lies not in the manipulation of what it contains, but rather in the simple meditation between what happens inside and outside.
Architecture is thus without content, but not without intentions. The exhibition at the Center for Fine Arts inhabits a set of particularly designed spaces by Victor Horta. The architecture of these spaces is oppressive but interesting, and depending on its use, able to have various impacts. The tables of the exhibition populate the room in mild ignorance. The spatial distribution of the tables is centralized or focused around the dome center of the antechambers. It turns the architecture of Horta into a powerful container and it transforms the space without touching it.
The machine rooms are integrally part of the world we inhabit. We can no longer ignore their existence. We are forced to live together with them. The disappearance of these leftover spaces forces us to fundamentally rethink the status of our own infrastructure. In a world where the status and appearance of the old public building is increasingly disputed, the machine might find a gap to fill. Their sheer mass makes them unavoidable. They're fascinatingly powerful because our cities are not designed to accommodate them. It is our task to turn this power to the advantage of the urban collective and the city.
So now since we look at the exhibition Everything Architecture and offers Kristen Gay's ideas on how architecture without content is, let's ask them the question and try to find out the real answers. So, how do you position yourself in the discourse of architecture?
I think, to a certain extent, as an architect, you are part of the cultural discourse of architecture as it is to be accumulated through all the materials which have been made before. So you are part of the discourse in as far as you understand what happened before, and you to a certain extent know that you live today in the present. So it's not about nostalgia, it's also not about invention, it's about trying to negotiate in the most precise way your own intentions with all the vocabulary which has been made available to you.
Well, I think our position is something that you are all the time also describing yourself. It's not something you decide for in the beginning, this is our position, and then you make a live work of trying to prove that position. I think while making the architecture, you develop a position. I think at the same time the items come back, but that's merely because they are very personal obsessions or fascinations of both of us that we all the time test with each other and with our office.
And we are also wondering, what's your design method?
As we just said, we sit together with certain ideas, some of them preconceived, others maybe fresh. Things we've just seen, art we've seen or visited, all different things. Fascinations, as David said. At the same time, somehow, because I would say the performance of certain things. I mean, there's a certain spatial performance of things. We did not talk about that before, but so the idea that architecture in the end is something, especially when it's built, you perceive, I would say, phenomenologically. So in other words, in 3 dimensions, you walk through it. It has a certain set of spatial qualities. These very simple things, so in the 3 dimension of the built work, but in the 2 dimension of the collage, of the composed work, is important to us.
Big boxes such as the data centers are becoming monuments of our century. The questions of architecture, which becomes the questions of interior and exterior, questioning the idea of context and scale rather than the design elements of form and content, maybe this could lead us to look at the new potential of emerging pattern in the field of architecture, an architecture without content.